Hello and welcome back to Get Great at Maths. I'm here to help you pass your maths exam, so hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to look at keywords, key formulas and how to gain top marks. So let's get ready to get great at maths. So here are the geometry questions I predicted that would come up for paper 2 and 3. Now I've looked at paper 1, I've looked at paper 2, and these topics here are what is left. So keep watching and I'll go through what you need to know. So looking at what is left, these are the geometry questions that haven't come up. So these will come up on paper 3. Now there are some topics in here that are guaranteed will come up. Okay, so these ones here with the arrows down the side, pretty guaranteed they will come up. You will get some angle question of some form. It could be linking in with bearings as well. So you can see here I've got the angles, potentially could have the bearings, could be the angle question. You haven't had any circle theorems yet, so that could be a normal circle theorem question or a circle theorem with proof. Pythagoras hasn't come up. There was a lot of trigonometry on paper 2. There was no Pythagoras, so make sure you know your Pythagoras for 2D and 3D. Vector geometry, there's no vectors been so far, so make sure you know your vectors. And volumes, there was nothing on volumes. There was a lot of surface area or some surface area on the last paper where linking with similar triangles. So surface areas, similar shapes may not come up because they did come up a little bit on paper 2. Same for transformations, the translation came up, but these other ones here didn't come up. Invariant may come up, so make sure you know all these things. And if you're looking to just cut down a little bit of work, initially look at the ones with the arrows first, and when you've got time then you can look at the other ones. You're going to be okay. You've only got till next Wednesday to concentrate on your maths, and then your maths will be over unless you carry on to do A-level, which hopefully a lot of you here watching will want to do A-level maths. So good luck with whatever your future plans are. Keep listening, keep sharing all this information. You're going to do great. Well done and good luck. This is a question on 3D shapes, plans, elevation and sketching. So read through the question, it's worth 2 marks, press pause, have a go working out the answer, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. I'll then go through the key facts and show you the mark scheme to see where you should be getting the marks. So our keywords in this question are that you've got to draw the side elevation. That means what you are looking at when you draw from the side and you are drawing from the direction of this arrow. So here's the arrow here. If you looked at the side of this object here, so front, this is what it looks like from the front. If you looked at it from the side, what will you see? The plan is what you look like if it's above. So if you're looking from above, this is what it looks like. You can see this dent here, it matches in with this line here. That won't matter when you're looking from the front, okay, that line at this point here. But the point that does matter are these points here where you've got a difference in level. So you've got a first bit forward here, you're looking from this end here. What's going to happen when you're looking from this end? How wide will it be? The mark scheme was it looking like this. Okay, so B2 means no method needed, which means you can literally just write down your answer. So this is what you should be drawing. If you draw it out correctly, you get 2 marks. For the full side, and you need to get the measurements correct, 5 high and 3 wide. So the 3 wide represents this part here, the 5 high represents this distance here that we had over here. There is 1 mark for this part under here, so just read through and see how many marks you've got. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. If you got the answer correct, give me a big like and then write a comment. Let me know how you got on with this. This is a key topic that comes up time and time again to do with angles. This is angles in a triangle. Now you all know the fact that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, but they don't just make it easy. You can see in here we've got some ratio appearing as well, and you've got to work out the size. So have a read through the question, see if you can use your angle facts and this ratio fact to work out the missing angle here. Press pause, have a go when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So you've hopefully had a go at having a go at doing this question. The keywords of this question are that these points here, A, D and B, as you can see in the diagram, are in a straight line. And you're told of the angle DCB. So that starts at angle D, goes down to C and then back up to, D, C and then comes across to B. and the size of ACD is in the ratio 2 to 1. That means if this angle in here was 2, this angle in here would be 1. So when you're looking at ratios, you could call this angle here 2x and this angle here 1x, because that's the ratio between these angles here, which will help you because then you've got angles in a triangle add up to 180 here. Angles in a triangle here add up to 180, and you can work those out in terms of x. And you've got to work out the angle of BDC. So starting at B to D to C, you'll then be able to work out this angle here, because these two angles here add up to 180. You know what this angle is here because of this triangle here. You also know what this angle here is because of this one here. And you can use all these facts to work out this top angle up here. So the mark scheme says there are 4 marks here, 3 method marks and 1 answer mark. CAO means correct answer only. OE over here means or equivalent. So this is your final answer of 93, showing your method for getting your answer here. If you got this correct or you need some help, just comment below and then I can give you some help. This is another angles question linking angles in quadrilaterals. So a quadrilateral is a 4-sided shape here. Read the question, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So hopefully you've managed to remember your angles facts for quadrilaterals, and the angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. Our keywords are that we've got a regular pentagon, which is this big shape outside here, the 5-sided shape, and the parallelogram in here. And you've got to work out the size of angle X, and you must show all your working. So you should be able to work out the interior angle, okay, of a parallelogram. Remembering the sum of the interior angles is n, the number of sides, take away 2. So 5 take away 2, which is 3, times by 180 will give you the sum of all these sides here, these angles. Divided by 5 will give you the angle of one of these angles, which will give that total angle here. Remember, this shape here is symmetrical, so if this is 117 here, this angle over here will be 117. That means these two here opposite each other will also be the same, so you can work that out, remembering the angles in a parallelogram add up to 360. Or you've got a C shape here, so you could use these two angles here, add up to 180, so you can work out this angle. Once you've done that, then you can work out X. The answer was 45. There were 4 marks for the question. P stands for progress mark, so basically showing your method. CAO means correct answer only. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done. Please comment below to let me know how you found this question. This is a question on angles in irregular polygons. So this is an irregular polygon that you can see in front of you because all the sides of this shape are not the same length. That's what makes it irregular. Read through the information in the question, have a go at working out the answer, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to have a go at working out the answer. Keywords in the question are that you had one line of symmetry, so you should be able to clearly see down the middle here is your line of symmetry, which means if this is 117 here, this angle on this side is also 117. So the angles opposite each other will be the same. You were told some lengths that FA and BC are equal to each other, as you can see in the diagram. Same here for this next bit of information is shown in the diagram. The next, the angle ABC is written in your diagram. So from A to B to C, this angle here, 117. You're told that angle B to C to D, so B to C to D, is equal to 2 lots of angle C to D to E. So C to D to E. So this angle here is twice of this angle. So if the angle down here is X, then this angle up here is 2 lots of X. You've got to work out the size of angle A to F to E. Now A to F to E will be the same as B to C to D, which is 2 lots of this angle at the bottom. You must show your working out, and this was worth 4 marks. Remember how to work out the sum of the interior angles of any polygon, and we have got a hexagon here, so a 6-sided shape, so it's n minus 2 times by 180 for the sum of the interior angles. You know these two angles here are 117, these two here are 2x, these ones down here are x, you've got to work out this angle up here, 2x. So the mark scheme shows that there are 3 method marks, and C1 means a communication mark. So you need to make sure that you show your working to explain what the angle is, and it was 162, and these are the reasons why. OE over here means all equivalent. So make sure you read through this and you know clearly how to get the 162. Comment below, let me know how you found this question. Here we've got a question on angles in parallel lines. Press pause, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer, and then I'm going to go through some key facts with you and show you the mark scheme. Fantastic work. So when you're looking here in the question, you are told that you have got parallel lines. You can see those here in the diagram, and you've got to show that the triangle A to C to D, so A to C to D, is an isosceles triangle. Now that means 2 of the sides are exactly the same length. So if you look at this triangle here, 2 of these lengths have got to be the same. Now looking at it, I would say C to A and C to D look to be the same length. A to D looks to be a different measurement to the other 2. You've got to give a reason for each of the stage of working, and this will give you 5 marks in the exam. Now remember, when you're working in parallel lines, you've got this egg shape, which means angles vertically opposite each other are equal. So whatever this angle here is going to be the same as the angle on the other side. You've also got your F, which is your corresponding angles. So these corresponding angles means that this angle in here at F and the angle here at C are going to be the same. And then you've also got the Z shape, which are alternate angles, meaning these 2 angles here are exactly the same. You can also use the C shape, where these 2 angles here are supplementary, which means they add up to 180, but you could just use the X, F and C shape normally, Z shape, which are the easiest ways to work out the angles. So the answer with reason, okay, was here showing that it's isosceles. You've got 2 method marks, an answer mark, and this C1 mark means a communication mark. So you have to use words when you've got a communication mark. You have to say why. So you have to give the reasons that you can see here to be able to get the marks. Comment below to let me know how you did and how many marks you got on this question. This is an area of a rectangle question, but you can see there's a lot of words here, so you've got to make sure you read all the questions carefully and then work out the answer. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So key words in this question are: you're told you've got a regular field and the area is 80,000 metres squared. The greatest number of people that are allowed to attend the festival is 425. That's for Festival A. Festival B, we have got the rectangular field, which is 70 by 200. And the greatest number of people to attend this festival is 6,750. Now the area per person allowed for the Festival B is greater than the area per person allowed for Festival A. You've got to work out how much greater, giving your answer to the nearest whole number. So, the mark scheme, once you've had a go at working this out, remember you're going to be comparing the areas here, so you're going to have to work out the area of this, and you've got to work out the area per person. So you've got to work out what is the area per person. So that's your area divided by the number of people, area divided by the number of people, then you can compare which one is greater. There are 4 marks here. The answer was 19. This P1 is a process mark, which means for going through these processes here and then getting through to your answer will give you the marks. So you must show your method on these questions here, and the answer was 19 rounded to the nearest whole number. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. Here is the area of a trapezium question. So you can see here I've got a trapezium, which means the top side and the bottom side are parallel. And you've got these 2 sides which are slanted. And we've also got a cylinder here. So read through the question, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So the key words of this question we're going to go through, then I'm going to show you the mark scheme to see if you were correct. You're told that 5 litre tin of paint costs £16.99 and 1 litre covers an area of 2 metres square, and you've got £160 to spend on the paint. We want to know if he's got enough money to buy all the paint he needs. You've got to show you're working. So if you don't show you're working, you won't be getting the answer or any method marks. So here's the mark scheme. You can see here there are 5 marks for this question. 4 of them are P marks, which means they're process marks. So for going through this process of finding the area of a trapezium, which is a half of the height times by the parallel sides, A plus B, the length of those. And then C1 is a communication mark. The answer was no, and supported means you must show this working in order to get the answer. This is the question of the area of a triangle. Now this is a very tricky question, so read through the information carefully. You've got a lot of work to do for these marks, so have a go at answering the question and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So hopefully you've managed to have a go at working out this question. So the key words, you're told you've got a heptagon, which is basically this shape here, and it's regular, which means all the sides are exactly the same. The area of the triangle ABG, A to B to G, is 30, and you've got to calculate the length of G to B. Now the length of G to B is this distance here, and you've got to work out your answer to 3 significant figures, which means 3 whole numbers, and you've got to show you're working out. So remember, you've got a formula for the area of a triangle, which is normally half the base times the height, but we don't have any angles or any information in here. Or we don't know what this height is or anything, so that formula is not very good. So the easier formula to use is the formula half AB sine C, where this side and this side are exactly the same, and the angle in between them we can work out because this is a regular heptagon, so it's the number of sides take away 2 times by 180, which will give me the sum of all these angles, divided by 7 will give me the size of one of the angles. Then you can use this to work out the formula half x times x sine C to work out the area, which is going to equal 30. Then once we know these sides here, then you can do the sine rule or the cosine rule to work out this side here. Probably the cosine rule is the easiest to use. So there's a lot to get these marks here. The mark scheme is here, showing there's 3 marks. P1 shows for a process mark, and the answer was 15.8. So you can read through the stages of working to see where to get these answers. This is a question to do with the area of a sector. Now have a read through the information of the question and press pause, and then press play when you're ready to hear keywords and phrases and then the mark scheme. Fantastic. So hopefully you've managed to have a little try at this question before I went through it. So your keywords in the question are you've got to work out the area of O to B to C, which is this sector here on the end. And you've got to give your answer to 3 significant figures, which means 3 digits which are not 0. So here you can see we've got a triangle connecting the 2 shapes. So this triangle here, this distance here is called the radius of the circle, if it was a whole circle. And if I've got 2 lengths here, these are both radii. So this is the radius and this is also the radius of the whole circle. Now you could use the cosine rule on this triangle here to work out the length of O to B. And then remember you've got a fraction of the circle. So the fraction of the circle you've got is 80 divided by 360, because there's 360 degrees in the circle, times by the area of the whole circle, which is pi r squared. So that's how you'd work it out. The mark scheme shows the method marks here. So P1 is a process mark, A1 is an answer mark of 19.9. So that's the answer you should have got, and these are them working, but you should have done in the middle. If you got it right, give me a big thumbs up and write in the comment below. Let me know how you found this question. Now this is a bearings question, and this says that it is an accurate diagram. Now because it says it's an accurate diagram, it means that the diagram that you've got here and the answers you're going to get off of my screen will be slightly different to the mark scheme. And the reason they'll be different is because the scale of this, as I've enlarged it or made it smaller to fit on my page, and the same for you on your computer or whatever device you're looking at, will give you all slightly different answers. So it's the method we're interested in on this question here rather than the final answer. Press pause, see if you can work out how to do it, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So, keywords in the question. We're told that Aileen sails her boat from Port P, which is here, on a bearing of 70 degrees. So you need to put your protractor here with 0 going up the top, and then you're going to measure at a bearing of 70 degrees. So from 0, come round to 70, which is going to be, remember, 90 degrees is a right angle, so it's going to be less than a right angle, so it's going to be coming up here. You just need to draw a really long line as far as it will go off your page. She sails for 1.5 hours at an average speed of 12 kilometers per hour to a point Q. You've got to find the distance in kilometers of port Q from the lighthouse L. So here's the lighthouse L. So you've got to measure the distance from Q, and you've got to measure the bearing of point Q from the lighthouse. So from the lighthouse, wherever Q ends up, so say Q's over here, you've got to take the angle from here, from north, measuring round to that distance there, Q, wherever Q is. Now remember, a bearing has to be 3 angles, 3 digits. So it needs to be, if there's only 2 numbers, so for example 20, you have to put 0 to 0 to make it a bearing. So 3 digits for your bearing, always measuring from north and going clockwise. So the mark scheme says it's a distance in the range 20 to 23. I'm not expecting you to get exactly 20 to 23 on this question here, as I said, because the diagram is not to scale compared to what it will be in the exam. And the bearing is 317 to 330. Again, is not going to be exact. These P1s here just mean a process mark. A1 are answer marks for getting the answer in these ranges. But it is the process that you've got for using these processes here which will give you the marks, rather than what the final answer is on this question. Comment below to let me know what answers you actually found. This is a question on circle theorems. Read the question carefully, press pause, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So keywords in this question to help you in case you're getting a little bit stuck is you're told that the shape here, A, B, D, E, so A to B to D to E, is a quadrilateral. 4 sides, that's all it means. A, B, C, so A to B to C is in a straight line, and so is E to D to C, as you can see in the diagram. You're told DBC, so from D to B to C is 60, and that is in the diagram as well. So all the information up here is literally just in the diagram. You're told that the size of angle EAB, so E to A to B, so this angle up here, EAB, this angle up here, to the size of angle B to C to D is on the ratio 2 to 1. So that means that this angle up here is twice whatever this angle here is. So this distance here is x, this angle up here is going to be 2x. And you've got to work out the size of angle B to C to D. So B to C to D. And you must show your working. So you've got this triangle here. Remember, angles in a triangle add up to 180. Also, similarly here, you've got angles in a triangle adding up to 180. Also, angles on a straight line add up to 180. And you've got angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. Again, along here, angles in a straight line add up to 180. You've got to use all these facts in able to work out this angle here, B to C to D. Now the mark scheme says there's 4 marks awarded here, M1 and method marks, and these are the methods here to show you how to get the answer. The answer was 40, so if you've got 40, give yourself a big tick. If you want to see in more detail how to get that correct answer, then just comment below and then I can go through how to do it. Here's a question on circle theorems. So we're going to look at some keywords in the question, but I want you to read through the information first, press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So you should have looked at the keywords in the question. So you're told that you've got points A, B, C and D are on the outside of the circle, so on the circumference of the circle, and the centre of the circle is O. You're told that A, D, E, so A to D to E is a straight line, as is B to C to E, which you can see in the diagram. You've got to work out C to D to E. So this angle in here is what you've got to work out, and you've got to show your working, writing down the reasons why. Now with circle theorems, you need to know your circle theorems. So you can see here you've got the arrow, so you can see an arrowhead here, which means the angle at the centre is double the angle at the circumference, which means you can work out this angle in here. So on your diagram, always just write down the angles that you know, regardless of what you're trying to work out. Think about what you know. Here we've got a cyclic quad, so there's a quadrilateral in a circle and the angles in a cyclic quad add up to 180. So if we know this angle here, we can then work out this angle here. From here, you have got an angle here, 16. So you've got this big triangle here, so you could work out this angle in here because you've got the angle of 16 here, you know the angle at the top, and you can work out this angle here. So if you keep working through like this, okay, you will keep going and eventually be able to work out this angle here. So if we keep going a little bit further, so we've got these two angles here. That means we can work out this angle here because angles on a straight line add up to 180. So we know this angle in here. And we've got this triangle here. Angles in a triangle add up to 180, which will give me this angle here. The mark scheme says the answer is 98. You can see the working they've used here. So M1's a method marks, A1's the answer mark for getting 98. C1 is for giving the reason. So you have to show the reason why, explaining the circle theorems in order to be able to get the mark like I've just explained to you. So give yourself a big tick and write down whether you got the answer or not in the comments below. This is a circle theorem proof question. So you've got 4 points on the circumference of the circle, and I want you to read through the question, press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So you've actually should have had a go at working out this answer here, and you've got to prove that PQX and triangle SRX are similar. So you can see we've got two triangles up here and you've got to show that they are similar. So the key bits in the question is what we just said. So P to Q to X is got to be the similar to X to R to X. Notice that is the opposite way round to the other one. So this point P responds to this point here R, the Q responds to the S over here. And you've got this angle at the top. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at the circle theorems. Now, you see in here, you've got a bow tie. Now, that means that angles on the same arc, so these from P to S is the same arc, two angles at the top that are subtended by the same arc are the same. So the angle up here at Q and the angle at R are the same. Similarly, from the other side, this is an arc here, and these two angles at the top are subtended on the same arc. So the angle at P and the angle at S are going to be the same. Here you've got vertically opposite angles, so these two angles here are the same. So that means because all the angles are the same, they're going to be in the same proportion to each other, which means they are going to be similar. The mark scheme shows this is a proof. C1 here stands for a communication mark. These are the reasons why that you need to include to be able to get the full marks in the exam. Here's a circle theorem proof. These are tricky questions to be able to get your head around, but once you understand how to do a proof, you're guaranteed to be correct because you have done what it's asked you to do. So press pause, have a read through the information, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. So you're told you've got points A, B, R and P. So you can see them, A, B, R and P are 4 points on the circle with centre O here. And then you've got A, O, R, C are 4 points on a different circle. And the two circles meet at the points A and R here. And you've got CPA, which is a straight line. And you have got CRB. So you can see here, CRB is also a straight line. And AOB is also a straight line, which means you've got a triangle appearing in the middle here. And it says prove that the angle CAB and the angle ABC are the same. So this angle here, CAB, this angle in here, and the angle A, B, C down here are the same. So you've got to prove these two angles are the same. Now that means if these two are the same, this length and this length are going to be the same because they've got to be isosceles for these two angles to be the same. So you basically, if you could show that this and this length here are the same, then that will show that you've got an isosceles triangle, hence these two angles will be the same. The mark scheme shows the method marks here. The final mark is just for doing the complete proof and conclusion, to explaining what is going on. These C marks are communication marks. You have to be able to communicate using words as well. And they're using circle theorems here. You can see the opposite angles of a cyclic quad. And you can use these facts here to be able to get the marks. Comment below to let me know if you need more information on this question. This is a question on congruency. So in this question, I want you to have a read of the question, press pause, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. And then I'm going to go through the key facts and bits you need to know to be able to answer the question. Fantastic. Hopefully you've managed to have a go at doing this question before I've gone through it. So you're told you've got a triangle ADE, and you're told that A and E and D and E are the same length. And you're told the ratio from A to B, from B to C to D is in the ratio 1 to 2 to 1, which means this is 1, this is a distance 2, this is a distance 1. So you can think of it as x, 2x and x. You've got to prove the triangle ACE, so from A to C to E, is going to be congruent to the triangle BD to B to E. Now, to be able to prove congruency, you need to know the conditions for congruency, and there are 4 different conditions, which are side, side, side. So you could have 3 sides. So if you show that this side, and this side are exactly the same, now you know that A and E and D and E are the same, so you could be using a side in there. If you can show they're all the same, so SSS, that is one of the conditions. You could also have a side, the angle in between them, and a side, so SAS is the second one for congruency. You could also have an angle, a side, and then another angle. So ASA is a third one for congruency. And the last one is RHS, which is the right angle, a hypotenuse, and a side. We don't have any right angles here, so we're not going to be using that last one. It's going to be one of the top 3 that I've just mentioned. So the mark scheme says, here's the information that you've got here, and they've used the SAS one, so a side angle side, for proving for congruency. As long as you can explain what you've done, then you will get the marks. C means a communication mark, so make sure you have used words to explain what is going on and how you're getting the answer. Here's a construction question. Now, in any construction question, you will need to use a ruler and compass, and it does say this in the question, so just press pause, go off, find your ruler and your compass, and then come back when you're ready to hear the next little bit. Okay, so hopefully you've got yourself a ruler and a compass, so draw yourself out the diagram so it looks like what you can see here, and then press pause, have a go at working out what it says, and then press play when you've got your answer to see if you've got any marks. Fantastic. So hopefully you've drawn it all out and you've managed to draw some construction lines. So the key words of the question are you've got to use your ruler and compass. Construct the line from the point P that is perpendicular to the line CD. Now here is CD, and this word perpendicular means at right angles. So you've got to draw a line that is at right angles to C and D that goes through the point P. So it's going to be a line that looks like this. So you've got to work out how to draw this using your compass. And you have to show all your construction lines. So what you need to do is you need to put the point of the compass at point P, and you need to arc across the line here twice. So that gives us an equal distance from P crossing the line CD twice. Once you've done that, you need to put the point of the compass here, and you need to arc above and below. Same from this new mark you've done on this side, arcing above and below. You've got 2 points which are equal, which you could draw a line through, which will give you the perpendicular bisector. The mark scheme says here for the full construction here, you get 2 marks. This C is a communication mark, so you have to show what you've been doing as you're going along to get the full marks. Comment below if you need to see more, and I can go through the question in more detail. This is a question on converting units. So have a go at answering the question, press pause, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. This is a short and sweet question. You've just got 8,000 centimetres squared cubed into metres cubed for 1 mark. So you need to think about your little unit square. So if you've got a unit square where you've got 1 metre across and 1 metre up, 1 metre is the same as 100 centimetres. So the area of that square is 100 times 100. And if you make that square into a cube, you've got 100 times 100 times 100 to work out the volume of that cube, which means 1 metre cubed is equivalent to 100 times 100 times 100, which is a million. So to convert this, we need to divide by that million, and that will give you the answer of 0.08, and B1 is your method mark, which means no method needed. You can literally just write down the answer. Comment below to let me know how you found the question. Here's a question on perimeter. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So keywords in this question are that you have got Q to R. So on your diagram, you can label this up as 10, and you're told that B to C, so this distance here, is equal to P to Q. And it doesn't look like they're equal in the diagram, but this length here is equal to this length here. You're told that the perimeter of ABCD, so ABCD is 26. You're told that the area of PQRS is equal to 45. And you've got to work out the length of A to B. So remember, to work out the area, it's the length times the width. So we know this distance is 10 times by something. So 10 times something has got to give me 45. So you can work out this distance here. Once you know this distance here, that is the same as this distance here and the distance over here. Then you know the perimeter is 26. So this top distance, the distance you've just worked out, plus the top distance again, plus this distance here, which we know is the same as the one over here, is got to give you 26. So you can then solve that to work out the length AB. The mark scheme says the answer is 8.6. P1 is a process mark, and you can see where the method marks are awarded for that to get the answer of 8.5 and how to get the answer. Give me a big like if you managed to get the answer correct. Well done. Arcs as sectors. So read the question carefully, press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So perimeters, arcs as sectors. You're told you've got a sector here, and you're told that the area of the sector is 40. So the space inside this shape here is 40. Remember, to work out the area of a sector is the angle divided by 360 times by the formula for the area of a circle, which is pi times the radius squared. So 7 is the radius, so pi times 7 squared is going to give you the area of the whole circle, and then you've got to work out what fraction it is doing the area angle divided by 360. You've got to work out the perimeter of the sector, so that is going to be 7 plus the arc length. So to start with, you've got to work out the angle using the sector information to work out the angle. Then once you've got the angle, remember the area of the sector, or the arc length. So this distance here, AB, the arc, is going to be the fraction of the circle, which is going to be the angle you've just worked out, divided by 360, times by some circumference formula, which is pi times the diameter. The diameter here will be 2 lots of this radius, which will be 14. Remember to give your answer to 3 significant figures, which means 3 digits which are not 0. The mark scheme says the answer is 25.4. There are 2 marks here. P means a process mark, so for using these processes here will give you the method marks, and the answer mark is for getting the final answer up here. Remember to leave your answer to 3 significant figures. Comment below to let me know how you found the question. This is a question to do with the circumference of the circle. Press pause, read the information, and press play once you've had a go at working out the answer and you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So hopefully you've had a go at doing this question. You can see clearly key information is on the diagram that you can see here, and you've got to work out the circumference of this circle. You've got to give your answer to 3 significant figures. So the formula to work out the circumference is pi times the diameter. So we need to know the distance for diameter, which is the distance from A to C. And you can see if I draw this line in A to C, I've got a right angle triangle appearing now. And you should be thinking Pythagoras, because you've got a rectangle in here. You know this is a right angle. You've got A, you've got B, you can work out C. using Pythagoras, and then you could use the formula for pi times diameter. The mark scheme says the answer is 40.2 to 3 significant figures. P1 is a process mark, so these are where you're going to get your method marks awarded, and then your final answer mark is here. Remember to show your working and give your answer to 3 significant figures. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. This is a Pythagoras theorem question in 2D. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So, keywords in this question, and we've got the point A has got coordinates -7, 6, and B has coordinates 8, 5. You've got to work out the length from A to B, giving your answer to 1 decimal place. Now, often on these questions, if it is tricky, draw a picky. So draw out a quick coordinate axis, draw out where these points are, and then once you've drawn them out, you'll be able to see the straight line between them, and you could use Pythagoras to work out the length of AB. So create a right angle triangle to do that. The mark scheme shows the answer is 18.6. You can see clearly for using Pythagoras, here's your method mark and here's your answer mark. Draw yourself a diagram to make it much easier. If you need more explanation, just comment below. Here's a 3D Pythagoras question. So read through the key bits of information, press pause, and then press play once you've got yourself an answer and you're ready to hear the mark scheme. So you can see here that you've got a cuboid. You're told for A to D, so you can label this on your diagram, is 9. So the distance from here is 9, label it on your diagram. F to D, from here to here, is also 13, so again label it on your diagram. You're told the angle GHF. So from G to H to F, this angle down the bottom is 49 in there. And you've got to work out the size of the angle F to A to H. So from F to A to H. And you've got to give your answer to the nearest degree. So you need to think about what is going on, draw some lines on this diagram to help you. If you need to convert this 3D diagram into 2D diagrams to see shapes and things, then you can work out other measurements. But you need to draw the diagram to help you see what's going on and draw out each diagram in 2D. The mark scheme says the answer is 56. You've got to use Pythagoras and trigonometry in similar areas. So looking at a 2D diagram on the 3D diagram to help you do it. This P1 is a process mark. If you need more explanation, just comment below and then I can go through the question in more detail. This is a question on similar triangles. So we've got 2 triangles here. You're told that they are similar. Press pause, have a go at working out these 2 answers down here, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. So to start with, you're looking at working out the length of E to F. So E to F is this distance down here, and you're told that the small one is 4. So when they're similar, it means what you do to one side becomes the same on the other. So what do you do to 5 to get 20? You multiply it by 4. So this big triangle is 4 times bigger than the small triangle. So if this distance is 4, if you times it by 4, will give you the length EF. And then the second part here is to work out the length AB. And then once you've got the length AB, then you've got to work out from here, you've got this length here, which is 22. So if you divide it by 4, it'll give you this distance here. The mark scheme shows the answer is 16 and 5.5. And you can see where the method marks were awarded. The CAO means correct answer only, and OE means or equivalent. So here's a question on surface area of 3D shapes. Press pause, have a go, read through the question, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer after you've had a go at doing the question. So fantastic. So hopefully you've looked at the key bits of information showing you've got a cube here and you've got a cuboid. So you're told that the total surface area of the cube is equal to the total surface area of the cuboid. So your cube has got 6 faces, the top and the bottom, the front and the back, and the 2 sides. And all these areas together, when you add them up, has got to be the same as the areas on these added together. So the top and bottom, front and back and two sides, when you add them all together, they will give you the same answer. Remember to work out the area of a rectangle is the base times the height. So 6 times 8 will give you the area of this front. The back will be the same. You can work out top, bottom, then the two sides. Janet says that the volume of the cube is equal to the volume of the cuboid. So remember to work out the volume of a cuboid. It's the length times the width times the height. So these three measurements multiplied together. On a cube, it's going to be this distance times this distance times this distance, which will be exactly the same. But you'll be able to work out what that distance here is once you know the surface area of this shape, because then you can work out the length once you've worked out the surface area of this shape. And then you can work out the volume of both the shapes, and you've got to see whether they are equal. You've got to say, is Janet correct? And you've got to show your answer. So you've got to show your working in order to get the full mark. The mark scheme says no, she's not correct. P1 means a process mark. So these are the processes to show the method. And the answer mark is got to be the reason why you're given this. So as I've explained through the processes, read through, see if you've got the answer that no, they're not the same, and then press play when you're ready to see more. Here's a question to do with surface area of cones. You can see here clearly they give you some formulas which you'll need to use in this question to be able to get the full marks for the question. Press pause, have a go at reading through the information, work out your answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the mark scheme. Fantastic. So key bits in this question, you can see you've got a sector OACB is the sector here, which is the same as this cone here. So if I combine this AO and OB together, it would form this cone. So this is like the net of this cone. So you should be able to see the similarity between the two. So the circumference of this circle around the bottom is the same as the arc of this sector. Now you're told that the sector OACB, as we can see, has got a centre 0, and the point C is the midpoint of the arc A to B. So C is exactly in the middle from here. Now the diagram shows the hollow cone with vertex O. The cone is formed by joining OA and OB, as we've just explained. Now the cone has got a volume of 56.8 centimetres cubed and a height of 3.6. So you can add 3.6 onto your diagram, this height here. Now this height, okay, if you draw the height in down here, the radius is along the bottom, which we don't know. And we've got a right angle triangle, which will be helpful for us. So we know 3.6, we know the volume. So we've got the volume of a cone here. So 1/3 pi r squared h. So that means you can work out the radius because we know the volume, we know the height. You can work out the radius. Once you know the radius, you know the height. You can then use Pythagoras to work out the slant height. We haven't even worked out what we're trying to find yet. So it says find the size of angle AOB. So AOB of the sector this shape here. Give your answer to 3 significant figures and show your working. So from here we can work out the slant height, as I've just said, using Pythagoras and the height and the radius. Once you've got the slant height, you can work out the curved surface area. So the curved surface area of this shape here will be the area of this sector. So you know the area of the sector, you know the radius of this distance here, which is the same as the radius of this shape over here of the cone. And you know that the formula for the area of a sector is the angle divided by 360 times by the area of a circle, which is pi r squared. So once you've got your radius, you've got the angle, you can work out what this angle here is because the areas are going to be the same. The mark scheme says the answer is 264. You can see the method marks they've used to get this answer. This P1 is a process mark. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. So here's the surface area of a sphere. You're told the formula for the surface area of a sphere, so you won't be expected to remember that. Read through the information, press pause when you've got an answer, and then try and work out the answer, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So hopefully you managed to come up with an answer. So keywords of the question, you're told that 3/8 of the surface area of this sphere is 75 pi. You're told that the surface area of the sphere is 4 pi r squared. So if you know that the surface area of the whole sphere is this, okay, or 3/8 of it is equal to that, you can use this formula to work out the radius. Once you've got the radius, you've got to work out the diameter, and you've got to leave your answer in the form a root b, where a is an integer, which means a whole number, and b is a prime number. So you've got a prime number under here. So the mark scheme says the answer is 10 root 2. P1 is a process mark, so for working out the total surface area. These are the method marks here. This CAO means the correct answer only, so you have to get the answer in this form here, 10 root 2. So you would get root 200, which simplifies to 10 root 2 to get the full marks. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. Here's the question for a surface area of a cylinder. Read the question carefully, press pause as you try and work out the answer yourself, and then press play to check your answer. Fantastic. Hopefully you've managed to read this question and get yourself an answer, and you're ready to hear the working. So keywords of the question, you've got 3 tanks. Each tank has got a top and a bottom, so you've got the top and the bottom included, and you have got the diameter, which is 1.6, which is drawn on the diagram, and the height of 1.8. You're told it's got 7 tins of paint, and each tin covers 5 meters squared. You need to know, has it got enough paint to complete the 3 tanks, and show how your answer is. So this is looking at the surface area of the cylinder. So if you've got a cylinder, the surface area is all the area. If you painted all the sides, how much space has been painted. So you've got a circle at the top and a circle at the bottom, and the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. If you opened up this shape and laid it out flat, you would get a rectangle. The distance here of the rectangle is 1.8. The other distance of the rectangle is the circumference of this circle. Remember, the circumference of the circle is pi times the diameter. Once you've worked out your total surface area, then you can work out how much paint is needed, and is 7 tins of paint going to be enough? The answer says no, there is not going to be enough, and supported means you have to use these reasons here to support your answer. P1 is a process mark, so for going through these processes here, and C1 is a communication mark for using words no and explaining in words why it is not, because you've got to say that he needed 8 tins, not 7 tins. Comment below to let me know how you found this. Here's a question on transformations. Read through the question carefully. Remember, if it's tricky, draw a picky to help you, and then press play when you've got your answer. Fantastic. Hopefully you managed to have a go at working out the answer. So keywords of the question, you've told A is reflected in the line x equals 2 to give shape B. So draw yourself out a triangle or a square or a rectangle to show what happens as A goes to B. It's probably better off doing a triangle or a rectangle than a square, because it's difficult to see where the corners go on a square. Then B is reflected in the line x equals 6. So again, on the same diagram, show what happens when it goes in the line x equals 6. And this gives shape C. You've got to describe the single transformation that goes from A to C. Now, without a diagram, this is very, very tricky. So as I said, if it's tricky, draw a picky. So make sure you've got yourself a picture drawn out to be able to see what is going on. Once you've drawn your picture, you should be able to see you've got a translation of 8, 0. So C1 is a communication mark, so one word the same for word translation, and one for using the vector 8, 0. Press pause if you need more time to draw this out to see how the answer works, and then just keep press play when you're ready to move on. Here's a question on transformations. Press pause while you draw out the diagram, and then have a go at doing the transformation, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Okay, so hopefully you managed to find some square paper to make it easier, or you can screenshot the screen that you can see here and then draw over on the screen you've got here. Doesn't matter as long as you've got this drawn out. So the key words of the question are to enlarge A by a scale factor of 2.5 with centre 0, 1, and that has been drawn on the diagram for you to help you out. Remember, scale factor of 2.5, you're looking at the distances. So to get from this point here, 0, 1, to the bottom point, it's got a distance of 1 square. So if we times our 1 square by 2.5, 1 times 2.5 is 2.5. So instead of being 1 square across, it's going to be 2.5 squares across. So it's going to come to the point here. You need to do the same for all the corners, working out how far across and how far up to get here. So it's 1 across and then 2 up, so it's going to be 2.5 across, and then double 2.5, so it's going to be 5 up, so 2.5 across and then 5 up. Where's the next point go to? Work out where all 3 points go to, and then you've done it. So you should have done an enlargement. B1 means you don't need to do a method, you can just write down your answer. The vertices of the corners, which should be at the point 2.51, which is the one we talked about. 2.56, which is the second one we talked about, and you had to work out the third one, which was 5.6. So make sure you've got your coordinates correct. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Comment below to let me know how you found this. Here's a question on transformations. So read through the question carefully, draw out the diagram so you have a go at doing it, or you could just screenshot and then draw over on your own screen or on the computer to work out the answer. So press play once you've drawn it and you're ready to hear what's to do next. Fantastic. So hopefully you've paused the screen and you've managed to get this copied out and you've drawn this out accurately. Have a go at doing the enlargement of a scale factor of -2 with a centre of 0, 0. So here's my origin, 0, 0. Work out the scale factor of -2. Remember, when it's a negative, it goes the opposite direction. And then press play once you've got yourself an answer. Fantastic. So if we look at this point here, you go across 1, 2, 3 to the left and 1, 2 down. So because we're going minus, instead of going to the left and down, we're going to go to the right and up. That's what the negative does. It goes the opposite direction. Now this was 3 across and 2 down, but we've got 2 times. So we've got to double it. So instead of 3 to the left and 2 down, it's going to go 6 to the right and 4 up. This is where the new corner goes. You need to do that for all 4 corners to work out what the new shape looks like. Press pause if you haven't done it already, and then have a go at working out where the new diagram is. The mark scheme says these are the coordinates that you're looking at. So we looked at the point, you can see the points that we've got here. So 4, 8, 6, 4, 10, 4, and 12, 4. B1 means no method needed. So just comment below, let me know whether you got your diagram correct, and hopefully you know how to do these enlargements. Here's a question on transformation where you've got to describe the transformation. So you've got to say what is going on. So read the question carefully, use words to explain what is going on for the 1 mark. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Okay, great work. Hopefully you managed to come up with a way to describe what is going on. So the key words of the question, we're looking at triangle PQR. So P to Q to R with centre C, and there's a scale factor of 1.5. So it's saying that this shape here is 1.5 times as big as this shape down here. And he draws out triangle XYZ, X to Y to Z. And you've got to say why Roy's diagram is not correct. What is wrong on this diagram? So the mark scheme says this is any acceptable answer. C1 is a communication mark, so you have to use words to explain why he was not correct. And you can see the answer here. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. So here's a question on transformations and invariant transformations. So you need to read through the question really carefully. Press pause while you copy out the diagram so you can get this information down, or take a screenshot of it and then write over it on your phone or your iPad or whatever you're using, and then press play when you've had a go at working out the answer. So read the question carefully, have a go at answering it, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. So great work. So hopefully you've managed to get an answer. You've drawn out this diagram here, got your axis drawn out, so it's nice and clear. The keywords of the question, you're told this shape here, P, is rotated 180 degrees, so that's halfway round about the point 0, 0, which is the origin. So you're allowed to use tracing paper in the exam, so just put your hand up and ask for tracing paper if you're not very good at rotating. So just get some tracing paper, draw around this shape P, put a cross here of a point 0, hold the pencil on this point, and then turn the tracing paper so it goes halfway round so the shape appears over here in the bottom corner up here. And this is going to be triangle Q. You're then told that Q is translated by 5, negative 2. So this point here will come round the opposite. So instead of being 1 up and 2, 1 across and 2 up, it's going to go 1 across and 2 down. So this point here is going to come to this point here when you've rotated. But you've got to translate by 5, negative 2. So 5 means 5 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 2 means 2 down. So this is that top point there. You've got to do the same for all the points to work out the triangle R. Then you've got to describe how do you get from P to R in one single transformation. So what happens to get from P to R? Then you've got to map P onto triangle R, and the point A is invariant. Now that point invariant means it doesn't change, and you've got to write down the points of coordinate A. So the mark scheme says the answer for the first bit is a rotation of 180 about 2.5 minus 1. And the invariant point is the point that doesn't change, which is the point centre of rotation, which is the point here, 2.5 and negative 1. M1 is a method mark, A2 are 2 answer marks, and this B1 means no method needed. You can literally just write down that answer. It is the centre of rotation. This FT means a follow-through mark, so if you got the centre of rotation wrong up here, you'll still get the method mark as long as you use your centre of rotation. Comment below to let me know how you found this. So here's a question on the invariant transformations. Read the question carefully, draw out the diagram, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. Hopefully you managed to pause it for long enough to draw out the diagram or screenshot what you've got, and then you're only pressing play. Now you've got the diagram drawn out and you've had a go at doing the answer. So keywords in the question. You're reflecting in the line x equals minus 1. So here's my x-axis, x equals minus 1 at this point here. So this is a vertical line, the line x equals minus 1. So you've got to reflect in this line here, and then it's going to be followed by a rotation. Now, under the combined transformation, 2 vertices of the square are invariant, which means they do not change. Describe the fully one possible rotation. So you've got to work out what the rotation was, remembering 2 points are invariant, they don't move. So it's been reflected in this line here, then it's rotated, then you've got to work out what the invariant point is, or describe the rotation. So the mark scheme says there are 2 marks. This C2 means a communication mark. So you've got to describe that it could be 90 degrees clockwise about the point minus 1, 0. So any of these values here are adequate. So using words to describe what is going on. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. Here's a question on invariant transformations. So read through the key bits of information, copy out the diagram for me, press pause while you copy out the diagram, and then have a go at working out the answer, then press play when you've got an answer. Fantastic. So you're told you've got triangle A and it's transformed by a combination of transformations of a rotation of 180 degrees about the point minus 2, 0. So here's my point minus 2, 0. So we're going to rotate round. So this point here is going to rotate round by 180 degrees. Remember, you can ask for tracing paper in the exam. So just put the tracing paper over, draw around the shape. Here's my centre. Rotate it, put the pencil on the centre, rotate the shape round. So this point was here, so it will come underneath here. Now here's my new corner. So it's going to be then followed by a vector with translation of minus 3, 2. So it's going to go across 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 up, 1, 2. So the new point comes to here. You've got to do the same for all the points to work out where the new triangle is. and on the triangle A is invariant under the combined transformation. So there's one point that does not move from the start to the finish, and you've got to find the coordinate of that point. Where is it? So when you do it, you'll find that the shape you end up with is a triangle underneath here. And from this triangle underneath here, there's only one point that doesn't match. So this point here on the right has moved to the left, the point on the left has moved to the right, the point at the top has moved down here underneath. So the only point that hasn't moved is this point here at the point minus 3.51. So the mark scheme shows the answer is minus 3.51 for 2 marks. M1 is a method mark. CAO, correct answer only. So you must get the correct answer only. And here was your image underneath here. This was the only point that didn't move. Comment below to let me know how you found this. Here's a question on vectors. Press pause, have a read of the question, and then press play when you've got an answer. Fantastic. So hopefully you managed to come up with an answer. So keywords in the question, you've got this vector A times by 2, 6, plus B times by 8, 2 is parallel to the vector 13, 6. And you've got to find an expression for B in terms of A. The mark scheme says that B is equal to 3A. Your method marks for getting this are written here. P1 stands for process, so you have to follow these processes in order to get the answer mark here. OE means or equivalent, so you need to be able to come up with that or an equivalent answer. If you want me to go through this in more detail, just comment below. Here's a vector question, and you've got 2 parts to this, working in simplest form and finding the value of n. Press pause, read through the information carefully, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So we've got this quadrilateral C, D, E, and F, and you're told the measurements, so C to D is A. So I'd write that on your diagram with an arrow going this way to show you've got A. D to E is B, so again with an arrow on showing you've got B, which means M is the midpoint, so this distance is going to be a half of B, and this distance will be a half of B. And then F to C, from F to C is A minus B. You've got to work out F to E, so to get from F to E. So remember to go from F to E, you can go around the houses, you can go this distance, plus this distance, plus this distance, will give you in its simplest form. And then you're told M is the midpoint, as we talked about earlier. X is the point on MF. So from here, that X to F to X to M is in the ratio n to 1. So F to X, this distance is n, and X to M is 1. So if this is n, this is 1. You're told that CXE is a straight line. So if you go from C to X to E, these are all in a straight line. You've got to work out the value of n. So the mark scheme shows that the answer to the first one was 2A. And you can see where the method mark is here. CAO means correct answer only. For part B, you should have got the answer 4. And this P means a process mark. So these are the processes you should have gone through to get the answer of 4. CAO was correct answer only to get the 2A. Remember, when you write A, you have to write it in, with a squiggle underneath, because you don't write with a bold pen like the computer can. So here's a question on proof. These are nice questions in the exam because to prove it, as long as you can do what it says, you will get the full marks in the exam. So press pause, have a go at working out this answer, and then press play when you're ready. I would recommend drawing a diagram to say what is going on so you can find out what you're trying to do. So hopefully you've managed to have a go at answering this question and you've got an answer waiting. So key bits of information are already drawn on the diagram here with the arrows on. You've got a point P such that C to E to P, which is going to be somewhere down here, is in a straight line, and C to E is equal to E to P. So it's going to be equivalent distance over here. So P has got to be down here somewhere. You're going to use a vector method to prove that C to F is parallel to D to P. So D to P, if I work out D to P, over here that's going to be parallel to C to F. Now remember, when things are parallel, these, for example here, these two lines here are parallel. So A is parallel to 2A, so these are a multiple of each other. So that's got to be the same for C to F. So if we work out what C to F is by going around the houses, so 2A minus B minus A will give me the distance from C to F. Then you could do a similar thing from C to D to P. And then if one's a multiple of the other, then you've proved that they're parallel. The mark scheme says this is a proof. The C1 is a communication mark. This is your method marks for getting the answer, and you need to lead to a conclusion. Use some words to say that you have found what you were looking for. Comment below to let me know how you found this. Here's a cuboid. So we're going to be looking at the volume of a cuboid. Read the question carefully. Press pause while you have a go at answering the question, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So volume question, you should know the formula for the volume of a cuboid is the length times the width times the height. So we've got key bits of information, but the container is 2/3 full of water. You're told that a cup holds 275 millilitres of water, and you're working out the greatest number of cups that could be completely filled with water from the container. So we need to work out how much water is in the container. So you could do the length times the width times the height to work out the total volume. Then find 2/3 of it to work out how much water it is, and then divide that by the amount in each cup will tell you how many cups. The mark scheme says the answer is 8. P1 is a process mark, so these are the method marks to get to the answer. The CAO means correct answer only. So here's a question on the volume of a cylinder. Read the question carefully, press pause, work out your answer, and then press play when you want to check your answer. Fantastic. Hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer. So keywords of this question are we've got 4 tanks of the tractor. The information you can see in the diagram is written here in the question. And we're told that the fertiliser is mixed with water in the ratio 1 to 100 by volume. And we're told we've got 32 litres of fertiliser. 1 litre is 1,000 centimetres cubed. And we need to work if there's enough fertiliser for the tanks, and you must show your answer. Now remember, to work out the volume of a cylinder, it's the area of the circle, which is pi r squared, where the radius is half the distance, so half of 80 is 40. So pi times 40 squared is the area of the circle, times by the height, which is 160, which will give me the volume of the cylinder. Then you need to look at, once you've got the volume, you need to work out the ratio of how much is fertiliser to water. So you need to work out how much is fertiliser, because we've got 32 litres of fertiliser in there, and you've got to work out if that is enough for the 4 tanks. The mark scheme says yes, there is enough for the 4 tanks, and supported means you need to show your working or give these reasons here to get the full marks. These P1s are process marks, so these are the process you need to go through in order to get the answer mark. This C1 is a communication mark, so you need to use words to explain what is going on. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. Here's a question on the volume of a pyramid. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer and read the key bits of information, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic. So hopefully you've managed to have a go at working out the answer to this question in here. So keywords in the question are we've got a pyramid formed of 2 parts made of different materials, so a top and the bottom. Now the top part, P, has a mass of 92.8 grams and is made from a material with density 2.9. Now as soon as it's talking about mass and density, you need to remember the formula linking mass, density and volume. So you can think of a little triangle where mass goes at the top. So if you want to work out the density, it is the mass divided by the volume. We can work out the volume by doing the mass divided by density. So if we've got the mass and the density, we can work out the volume. On the bottom part, P has got a mass of 972.8 and the average density for P is 4.7. So again, to find the volume, you've got to do the mass divided by the volume, divided by the density. Now you've got to calculate the top part, P, as a percentage of the total volume of P. So we've got to work out the volumes of these 2 shapes. Give your answer to 1 decimal place and then you must show your working. Now, to find the volume of a pyramid, if you think of this as being a cuboid, so you've got a square at the bottom and then comes up to be a height up to this point here. So if that was filled in as being solid, it's the length times the width times the height all the way up. But because it comes to a point, it actually works out to be 1/3 of it. So it's 1/3 of the area of the volume. Or you can think of it as being the area of the base times the height coming up. So length times width times height divided by 3 is the formula for the volume of a pyramid. Now the mark scheme says the answer is 14.1. P1 is a process mark, so these are the processes you need to go to get through for the answer, and A1 is your answer mark to get for 14.1. Comment below to let me know how you found this question. Here's a question on the volume of a sphere and a cone. The formulas for the volume of a sphere and a cone are given here, so you won't need to remember that for the exam, but you'll need to know how to use them. Press pause, have a go at working out your answer, and then press play when you've got an answer. Fantastic. So keywords in this question are that you've got a volume of T, which is 120 pi. So you're told that this solid shape here, T, is this whole shape here. You're told the diameter of the base is 7, which you can see here, and the diameter of the hemisphere is 7, again shown in the diagram. You've got to work out the total height y, which is this distance here. So finding y, and you've got to give your answers to 3 significant figures. So you know the volume of the whole shape is 120. So you can see here at the bottom you've got a sphere, but it's actually cut in half. So if you work out the volume of a sphere and divide it by 2, will give you the bottom bit. And if you work out the volume of a cone and divide that by 2, that will, the volume of a cone, because that just sits on the top. If you add those two answers together, that will give you 120 pi. It's worth working in terms of pi because the pi's will just cancel easily, or you can work in terms of pi because you've got a nice value in terms of pi there. So we've got to work out this height y. Now you know the distance from the middle down is 7 because it's 3.5 because it's 7 all the way across. So the radius is 3.5. So from the center down to the edge is 3.5. The height of this, okay, is what you've got to find by using the volume. So you can work out the height here by using this formula here from once you've worked out the total for the volume of the cone. So if you work out the total volume is 120 pi, take away half the sphere, then use what's left is equal to this to rearrange to find h. Once you've got h, it's going to be h plus 3.5 to give you y. The mark scheme says the answer is 29.5. P1 is a process mark, so these are the processes you need to go through to get the answer, which is shown up here. This SC is a special case, which means you've got a special case and you can get 3 marks for the special case of getting one of these answers here. B3 means 3 marks and you don't need to show any working as long as you've got these 3 answers. One of these 3 answers of any of these forms, you can get 3 marks. So you've seen all the exam questions on different topics. Again, remember, these are the key topics. These are the ones I would definitely focus on. So make sure you know your stuff for the exam. Good luck. Remember to tell your friends, share. Make sure everyone and yourself knows what you need to do for the exam. All the best for the future and all the best for your last maths exam. Good luck. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Please follow Get Great at Maths on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and X. What do you want to see next on Get Great at Maths? Please comment below. See you next time.